Hugh Maskela's Stimela is a great anthem for Workers' Day. The protest song Stimela remains as much a song about present and future aspirations, as it is of the past. What is the ultimate song to celebrate Workers' Day? Many will suggest the Internationale, which had its roots as a poem written in the aftermath of the Paris Commune in 1871 by Eugène Pottier, a transport worker. Set to music a few years later, it became the anthem for the wider progressive movement. It served as the Soviet Union's anthem after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, making it more closely associated with the communist movement. But I would argue that trumpeter Hugh Maskela's iconic and internationally popular song Stimela - The Coal Train, is perhaps a more appropriate anthem for Workers' Day in southern and central Africa. The song speaks about local history and the migrant labor system on the mines. Stimela reminds everyone that South Africa's wealth and infrastructure was built on the back of labor from all over Africa. They were the force that modernized the country. But the song is also internationalist in focus. Early morning commute. Until recently I was responsible for teaching an introductory course in sociology to first-year university students. The auditorium in which I delivered the lectures had a beautiful sound system. I'd plug in my computer and play music before lectures started. The music served two purposes. I liked to imagine that it allowed students to find some calm after their early morning commute from the city's periphery on dilapidated trains. It was also a way to introduce debates about key topics covered in the first-year course. I always started the first lecture of the year with Maskela's Stimela because it was the perfect opening to a conversation about the forces that modernized South Africa. South Africa's was not a slow, organic growth of industrialization that characterized the European transition from feudalism to industrial capitalism, the great transformation that gave rise to my discipline of sociology, with Karl Marx as one of its key contributors. The emergence of modern South Africa was brutal in a different way. It came about as a result of the discovery of diamonds and gold, and the need for cheap labor to extract metals from the seams that ran through the Witwatersrand's rock formations. This was a story of labor shortages and the intervention of colonial administrations and armies across southern and central Africa. They dispossessed pastoralists of their land and imposed hut and poll taxes on traditional leaders so that Johannesburg could be supplied with the much-needed black gold, as journalist activist Truth First described the system. For Maskela, writing Stimela must have been, in part, a reflection on his own life. Born in the coal mining area called Witbank, he was raised by his grandmother who made her livelihood from a shebeen, an illegal bar, for mine workers. The legacy lives on up until the 1970s, when Maskela composed Stimela while he was in exile. South African mine workers typically spent only a few years on the mines, saving up money or buying cattle to return to their lands. But the 1970s was time of great change in South Africa's mining industry. In 1974, 72 Malawian mine workers were killed in an airplane crash. A year later, Mozambique became independent. Both Mozambique and Malawi were major suppliers of migrant workers to South African mines, and these events put the steady flow of labor at risk. In the case of Mozambique, the apartheid state was able to strike a deal with the new Mozambican government for the continued supply of labor. But Malawi withdrew permission for the recruitment of workers from their country. The result was a shift to recruiting more South African workers and the emergence of career mine workers with much longer contracts. This change in the mining labor market eventually led to the founding of the National Union of Mine Workers, NUM, in 1982. The successful organization of workers who were at the heart of South Africa's economy was one of the most important pillars of resistance against apartheid. Sadly, the mining industry's contested legacy and its migrant labor system remain challenges in the post-apartheid period. This is evident in a number of ways. The massacre of mine workers at Marikana in 2012 was a stark reminder of the acute vulnerability and exploitation of workers. On top of this is the inability of the mining companies and the state to provide many mine workers, now often employed through subcontractors, with decent housing and services. And finally, The issue of land dispossession still haunts the country, and remains unresolved. The conversation steam trains no longer crisscross southern Africa. Yet Stimela remains as much a song about present and future aspirations, as it does of the past.